everybody. Welcome to the RotoWire Fantasy Baseball Podcast, brought to you by the good folks over at Fantrax. Jeff Erickson here with Fred Zinkie. We've got a new initiative at RotoWire that I want to share real quick off the top. We're really excited about. It's called RotoWire Smart Money. It's our the tool to help you do well in your sports betting. Lots of different ways you can go ahead and attack that. So, attention sports bettors, RotoWire just launched a new tool that can help you bet smarter, introducing Smart Money, which tells you exactly where to bet across 25 and plus domestic books and fantasy platforms. With RotoWire Smart Money tool, you can follow the biggest wagers from the best bettors in the game. It tracks bets on sharp markets like Novig and ProfitX, where bettors who have already been limited by sportsbooks are forced to play. That means less noise, more signal, and more money moves worth following. Now by using Smart Money over at RotoWire.com. I'll post the link in there for you to go check that out for yourselves. It is another product that we're very excited about there. So hopefully you enjoy it there. Fred, welcome. Tout Wars weekend. It went smoothly. Very happy. I was able to make it back home. I know other people had some issues with traveling. I got lucky. But fun, lots of fun results.
Yeah, for sure. I had to sit out Tout Wars again this year due to kids' activities, but I'm hoping that next year I will make my triumphant return, or at least return to New York and get a chance to see everybody. It looked like it was a great time.
Yeah, it was indeed. We'll go over those results. Got a lot of takeaways, including a record-setting bid on Aaron Judge, only to be broken in the next draft, also on Aaron Judge. So there you go as far as that goes. But let's talk a little bit about exactly some of the news that's going on. And I want to start off with Gerrit Cole making a spring training debut. We might not be that far from him coming to be able to pitch in the regular season. Maybe a month, maybe 6 weeks. We'll see what happens there. Are you on Gerrit Cole anywhere?
I haven't been. I just am trying to avoid having too many stashes. So I haven't drafted him in any leagues so far. NFBC, I'm just a little worried about, like I said, having too many people on my bench who are injured. So, and it still looks like, from what I'm reading, we're looking at mid to late May for his return. So I haven't been on him so far, but today's definitely encouraging. Will I have any Gerrit Cole FOMO? Will I pick him up? We've got this Tout Wars Champions draft on Thursday. Maybe I'll try to pick him up there and get one share of them. And so that league has IL slots. We'll see. But this is definitely encouraging that that if you get him, I was trying to compare him to other injured type pitchers. Like, the ceiling's so high on him. He's much more desirable to draft, say, than Hunter Green. He just went off the board, and I think right around 20 in a draft in a 15-team league that I'm doing, and that felt about right to me. I think I would want to go a little bit later.
Yeah, exactly. You mentioned so a guy that we were talking about in spring training as a guy that really benefited from a move was MacKenzie Gore getting traded to the Texas Rangers. Has not been a great spring training for him so far this year. Lots of walks, and that's always been the problem. And when you invest in MacKenzie Gore, you're getting the strikeouts, but you're also getting hurt with the whip. So far, 6 Ks, 6 walks.
Yeah, so I mean, the reasons that we are higher on MacKenzie Gore haven't yet come to fruition. So he hasn't pitched in Texas yet, and that home park is part of the reason that some of us are getting back on MacKenzie Gore. And then the Rangers have a really good defense overall. Not the best in baseball, but way better than Washington's. Mm-hmm. So again, spring training, who knows who's behind them. I'd say there'd be no impact on the defense yet in spring training. So those reasons aren't gone. That being said, MacKenzie Gore has 6 strikeouts and 6 walks in spring training. So not exactly inspiring any confidence that he's about to turn things around. Like, there are just a few pitchers out there who are just absolute whip killers, and he's one of them. His career is 140. 135 last season was the career best. I think a Jose Soriano is another one like that, who can just really, really mess your whip. And it's almost like the more innings they throw, the worse it is, because they impact your whip even more. I mean, they get a few more strikeouts, maybe more win potential, but they just damage your whip even more. I have Gore ranked competitively, but I haven't drafted him anywhere. I just find myself wary of pulling the trigger on someone at that point in the draft. Late rounds, sure. Soriano, sure. You're kind of mixing and matching anyways. Gore, at the point he's being drafted, I think you expect to start him pretty much every time out.
Yeah, I think so. I absolutely, I would. I do have one position on Gore. It's in a it's in a score sheet league. AO only score sheet league. So just trying to get on top of one of the crossovers there, knowing that it'll probably be in Texas for a while. I think that was one of the appeals there, but it's not just Globe Life. It's also, you got to be betting on the Rangers to do a better job of developing too. Because let's face it, one of the failings of the Nats is they struggle to develop their starting pitchers. So yeah, I get it. Main event ADP for MacKenzie Gore is 149.
That's too high for me. I know pitchers go up in the main event, so we're talking more like a 175 or something like that. I still wouldn't be in there. Like I said, like it's more about where he fits into my rotation. So if he's my number 3 or 4 starter, I'm probably planning on starting him basically every time out. And I'm not there at it for the strikeouts. I guess like maybe if I had drafted some really good low whip pitchers already, let's say I'd started with Brian Wu and Jacob deGrom or something like that, then who are both typically around 1, maybe. But, and you raised a good point about the Rangers developing pitchers. Like they had a lot of success with Nathan Eovaldi and Jacob deGrom last year, but those are like mid-30s veterans who, have already been around the majors, have a pretty good understanding of what they need to do. So you're right. They haven't done an exceptional job at developing young pitchers.
Yeah, I think that's I think you're right about that. So whereas I think the Rangers are a little bit better, and I don't know, we'll see. But yeah, we'll see what happens on Saturday. I've got my main event draw. I'm drafting 13th, out of 15, aka known as the Zinkie. Not
the Zinkie by choice, just for the record. No. Just what I keep getting stuck with. Yeah. Although I found ways to make it work. I don't think it's such a bad spot for you.
Yeah, you can make any position work. And as much as I've whelped about my lack of early draft spots, and I did really want a top six spot, I'll find a way to make it work. It's not over.
For sure. I mean, now we're on a bit of a tangent, but I mentioned to you when we were messaging yesterday that like the good news in the main event is you can get a really great hitter at 13. And I just think for all draft slots, but maybe especially the back end turn ones, it's just going to be a matter of how you want to approach pitching. Like you could get 2 amazing hitters on that 1-2 turn because pitchers are probably pushed up. So, and then it's just managing, but somewhere you got to get some pitchers. So, and then we know in the main, there's not a lot left for pitching. I'm looking at the main event ADP right now. David Bednar and Aroldis Chapman come off the board right before your projected pick. So one of them could make it there. It just depends. It depends how you're going to handle relief pitchers. Are you going to try to go cheap? Are you going to, get some other guys later? Are you going to spend one of those early picks? And then also like, when are you going to get your ace? Are you going to try to get one right on that 1-2 turn? Or are you going to try to look, I see some on the 3-4 turn, like DeGrom and Max Fried. And so there are always hitters, right? In drafts, like there's always a hitter that you can take,
right?
Especially early, like when positions don't really matter. There's always a hitter. It's just, what's your plan going to be at the back end for pitching? I don't know. I think in the early picks where they really benefit is just that ability, like to get an amazing hitter first. And then you're sitting there on that 2-3 turn. You can easily get an ace. You can easily get a stud closer if you want. If you don't want to, there's still some really great hitters. And then when it comes to that 4-5 turn, there's still a little bit left in pitching, like you can go to the next tier closer, like Helsley or someone like that. There's still some like Bradish, Cease types, Framber Valdez. So I don't know. I think it's just the pitching. It's just for you between now and Saturday to decide how you want to attack your pitching staff.
Absolutely. Well, I'm not going to get a top 3 starter. I mean, I think maybe there's one draft where Crochet made it to 13. Maybe
there was one. Yes. Yeah. It's unlikely that it's going to happen for you.
It's exceedingly unlikely.
Yeah.
But it also means I'm not getting a top 5 closer unless I want to plunk on a Mason Miller at pick 12, maybe pick 18.
His ADP is 19. His ADP is 19. So
yeah, he's got a range of 12 to 27. But yeah, it means I'm basically not getting a top 5 closer. I might not get a top 8 closer. We'll see how that goes. Because I think the deeper you get in the draft season, you get into live drafts, the more intense that scrutiny becomes. So do I do Christopher Sanchez at pick 18? He's gone as early as 12. I won't be taking him at 13 probably because there's too many hitters that I like. But that is a choice. And I'm now Sanchez over Yamamoto, by the way. I flip-flopped that position. I had Yamamoto ahead of Sanchez and drafted accordingly in TGFBI. But if I were faced with that decision today, I'd take Sanchez over Yamamoto. The impact of those innings is so big. We were talking about this at Tout Wars weekend. Jeff Zimmerman and I were, and even if Yamamoto has slightly better ratios, the innings gap kind of takes away that advantage. I might even benefit more in the ratios because of the gap in the number of innings.
Yeah, it's totally true. And I just feel like with the Dodgers, there just is a cap on Yamamoto's ratios. Even he pitched in the World Baseball Classic. Like, we just know how careful the Dodgers are with pitchers and the 6-man rotation. So yeah, his ADP, Sanchez's ADP in mains is 17. So 1 pick before you go in the second round. So you're probably, 45% chance that he would be there in the second round. Mm-hmm. If you want to take him. I do find the closer inflation this year. There's always closer inflation in the main. I don't know. I feel like it's more this year than usual. I feel like we often talk about starter inflation. I feel like the closer inflation is huge. And
I think it started earlier, by the way.
Yeah, agreed. Yes.
I don't think it's just a main event inflation this year. I think it's in all the drafts.
I agree. So what I often find happens is during draft champion seasons, closers are inflated. And that makes perfect sense because you can't pick up saves on the waiver wire. So you're just going to get your saves. You're like, I did a draft champions league where I took Edwin Diaz in the second round. I would never do that in a league with waivers. But I was like, whatever, I'm going to lock in a top closer early. Hitters are going to fall. I'm not too worried about that. I've just got to get my saves because there's no other way to go about doing it during the season. But then I usually find that after draft champion season, the closer prices come back down. And this year they haven't. And if anything, for main event, they seem to have gone even higher. Like, I wasn't seeing in draft champions like Bednar and Chapman in round 3, maybe round 4, definitely round 5, but not round 3. So I'm seeing that as a huge difference. And then I thought a little bit about that. And I don't know if this is the right answer or not, but I thought, I don't know if I was in the main this year, if I would try to go cheaper on closers, because I feel like the fastest way for a player to vault from like 15th at his position to like 2nd at his position is for a closer to just kind of hold the job all year and luck his way into 38, 40 saves.
Yep.
Right. Carlos Estevez last year.
Or Robert Suarez for that matter.
Right. Robert Suarez.
Yeah, number 2 there. So
I kind of wondered if, like, because there's because there's the large group component to it, the big contest component to it. It's not just about holding serve and trying to win your league or placing the money in your league.
Right.
So you need some things to break right. Well, something that could break right is Emilio Pagan could get 40 saves. Like, you could just all he has to do is get the opportunities and keep the job. Like some of those guys that are Ryan Walker could get 40 saves. Dennis Santana, 35 saves. I don't know. I just feel like maybe that's a better odds than the hitters around them matching the top hitters. Right. Like Alex Bregman goes right after Dennis Santana. Like, I don't know. Everyone would kind of roster Alex Bregman, but you got to get your closers at some point, and maybe Dennis Santana has a better chance to equal Andres Munoz than Alex Bregman does, you know what I mean, to match a round 2 or 3 hitter.
I've always, battled the whole idea of what a closer is worth versus, just in terms of pure, like, dollar value formula versus, okay, I got to get my saves. And especially in an overall contest, you have to do that battle all the time. Do those mental gymnastics there. And, ideally, it's great if I could find my closer in the 10th round, but you're dealing with a lot more volatility. And when the problem is you're more volatile closer. Yeah, you could get Estevez, or you could get the guy that gets 5 saves all season, and you get nothing for your 10th round pick. Because at least your players that you fail on in the 10th round otherwise, you're at least getting some stats. You're getting something towards everything here. Whereas if a relief pitcher isn't closing, and you spent that 10th round pick on it, good luck.
Yeah, no, it's a really good point. You're right. There's that huge boom and bust nature to those 10th round closers that there isn't to Yohan Duran. That's why you pay the 2nd, 3rd round price to them. I guess it's just risk. It's just risk reward. Like what's your risk tolerance? The other thing that hurts you a little bit, and this would be at either end, but just picking near a turn, like the closer run can just get away from you so easily. Exactly. Right? Like you could go through you're on the odd numbers. You could go through the 7-8 turn and think, you know what, I can hold off a little longer before I get my next closer. I'll get him at the end of round 9. I've looked at ADP. There's some guys there, or whatever turn we're talking about. And then all of a sudden, bang, 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 bang. And you're like, oh, there they all go. Oh,
24 picks later. Yeah.
Guess I'm not getting one of them. So you might have to have in your back pocket too, like a late guy where you're like, okay, I'm not drafting Clayton Beeter or Riley O'Brien or Kirby Yates or one of these late guys, but I've picked out my favorite of the late guys. And if the closer thing goes poorly, I'll jump one. I've got a guy who I'm willing to jump like 3 rounds. And if his ADP is round 22, I'll just take him in round 19 and get him as my, as one of my closers. And yeah, it's not secure at all, but you might have to just kind of go through the, whatever it is, dozen teams that are not really set at closer and say, okay, this is going to be my guy. This is my backup plan that I'm going to have.
Yep. All right. There's some other news items we want to hit real quick. So let's jump into that. This is mentioned in the comments already. Why can't the Reds just say that Chase Burns is going to make the team? That's what you said. That's almost paraphrasing, predicting the future, because the Reds won't say that Chase Burns yet is going to make the team. And he only threw 2 innings in his last outing too. We're seeing positive reports on Brett Lauter, positive reports on Brandon Williamson. I don't think this is just noise, Fred. I think there is a legitimate chance that Chase Burns starts the year in AAA.
For sure. Now, I do think there's 2 different ways that someone starts the year in AAA. Like he's going to AAA, and when this pitcher looks ready, like if he pitches well, we'll bring him up, versus Chase Burns is going to AAA for 2 starts. You know what I mean? Like we just don't have the bullpen to manage Chase Burns making 3 inning starts at the beginning of the season. And that's where we feel like he's progressed to. So he's going to go to AAA and make like a 3 inning start and a couple 4 inning starts, and then he's going to come up. So we're going to miss 3 turns of him. I feel like if Chase Burns goes to the minors, like that's it. That's what's happening. Yeah. Not like, oh, Chase Burns has to go down and pitch well, and then we'll bring him up. Like I don't know. He's already shown he's a really good pitcher. Like, I don't know if I'm giving him too much credit, but you're right. I don't think this is just the Reds just saying something, like just, you know what I mean? Like just being hesitant, just not wanting to put pressure. And then with Hunter Green out, it seemed like initially like even more of a lock that Burns would be in the rotation and get to do a lot in the rotation right away. But if he's not, if they feel like he's not stretched out, then he's not stretched out.
Well, hey, Chase Burns has 6 walks in 10 innings this spring too, and his 4 official outings. So just be aware everything's not rosy right now with him. I mean, he also has 13 strikeouts. He can wow you. But it's the day-to-day that matters too. I mean, you have to get, you got to get the ho-hum borings, 6 innings, 5 strikeout outings where you give up 2 runs. You need those too. Those are, you need all of those, and not just like the huge K percentage time. So I get it with the Reds. I think that you're like you. If he does start the year in the minors, it'll only be a short time. I haven't drafted Chase Burns at price so far this year. Where I have Chase Burns is in a keeper league, in a Stratomatic league. I don't have them in places where I'm paying retail price. Pick 100 or player 100 in the main event. Average pick is 104 in the main event so far.
Yeah, and I just looked at the latest because I just wondered if there's been main event drafts since this news kind of came out. I don't know if there have been, but 121 is the latest. So we'll see where this goes. But man, it's hard to take someone in round 8 or 7 who's going to open the season in the minors, especially like a pitcher. Like if there was like if you felt for sure, remember when Chris Bryant went to the minors for a couple of weeks at the start of the year? Like if you felt for sure, for example, that Connor Griffin was going to go to the minors for only like 3 weeks, then it would be different. But because you're like, oh, I might have like a top 3 round pick on my hands once he comes up. If you really believe in the guy. I don't know with Burns, like I don't know. I dropped him down. I dropped Yasavage. I actually dropped Yasavage and Burns down similarly because the Blue Jays are doing a different thing with Yasavage where he is not going to the minors, but they're also saying that his initial starts probably won't be 5 innings. So we're probably looking at a couple Yasavage weeks where, like, do I want to start a guy who has 0 win potential? I don't know. It's a tough call. Like, you'd almost be better to take 3 innings from a middle reliever because at least he might be able to get a win than 3 or 4 innings from Yasavage. And you could get a reliever with a great strikeout rate. Like you could pick up Jeremiah Estrada and get 3 innings, 4 or 5 strikeouts, probably the same thing you savage in those early starts. So you're jamming up a roster spot that way. I don't know. So I dropped them both down a little bit. And now for me, they've fallen kind of behind like Sonny Gray, behind Jacob Mizorowski. The Brewers are even flirting with the idea of Mizorowski starting opening day. That's a very different approach from what the Reds are taking. Maybe down into that next tier. I still like them better than like Imanaga, Gore, Boz. Like I like them better than all those guys, but maybe down in the Ryan Pepio, Drew Rasmussen tier. You really like Drew Rasmussen, so you'd take him.
like both of those guys. I love that tier, by the way.
Yeah.
I love Sonny Gray. I like Nick Lodolo better than Chase Burns, by the way. I'll go ahead and say that.
Yeah.
I like Cam Schlittler better. All those guys I'd like ahead of Chase Burns.
So it's like I've slid those 2 young pitchers, Burns and Savage, to just the end of that tier. But if I go past that tier, then we're at Woodruff, Michael King, Trevor. I'm just going through main event EP. Trevor Rogers,
sure,
Imanaga. I like them ahead of those guys.
Fair enough. I think that's a fair drop. I might take some of those guys even ahead of Burns, but that's just because I just don't know how many innings he's going to throw this year too. Even with Hunter Green out. I just think that there's going to be a monitoring of Burns. I don't think he's especially pitch efficient either. I don't think he might struggle to get deep into games. So I think that's the other thing a little bit there just to watch out for a little bit. All right. We got a lot to talk about. Tout Wars. We'll talk a little bit more NFBC later on. I know we have other news items here, but we'll hit those if we have time. We can't make this all
so much this time of year for sure. Yeah.
Yes. So I'm going to put those to the bottom of the outline, and if we have time, then we'll hit them. But I'm guessing we won't. But that's okay. I mean, read RotoWire.com. Use promo code YouTube15. You can get all the news on RotoWire and get a 15% off any subscription there. Check that all out. YouTube15 at RotoWire.com. Our podcast is brought to you by Fantrax. Fantrax is the most customizable fantasy platform in the industry, offering the greatest fantasy experience for your dynasty, keeper, redraft, and best ball leagues. Are you coming from another service? Fantrax makes it easy. Fantrax can import any of your current leagues and customize if needed. We used the Fantrax commissioner service there to run the RotoWire Staff Keeper League auction and reserve draft last week. It was fantastic. It's great because you can do traded picks. You can, if there's salary penalties, you can do that. Unique player pools, you can do all that. And the player pool is mega deep. Sign up for free today. Simply go to fantrax.com/RotoWire and sign up today. That's fantrax.com/RotoWire. Fantrax, the home of fantasy sports. Big thanks to Fantrax for their sponsorship every single year. They're fantastic folks there. Fred, let's talk Tout Wars. It was a busy weekend. We pulled off 4 live events, AL only, mixed 15-team mixed league, an NL only on Sunday morning, and a head-to-head 12-team league all live. We've done 3 other online drafts. We still have the Tout Wars Tournament of Champions this week. We'll talk about that a little bit later on. You're going to be in that one there. I haven't won Tout since 2007, so I wasn't invited. That's okay. I gotta earn it. And hopefully I did this year in the AL Tout Wars. But for those that are streaming live with us, I will go ahead and add the draft results there, and we'll pull up the AL one here for everybody that wants to check it out. I'll give you guys a link as well if you think this font is too small. I can't do much about that there for you, but hopefully you guys can check it out and you can take a look here. First thing to remember about Tout Wars is it's OBP instead of batting average. It's something that I think some people, when they see some of the prices, they don't quite get it. Well, that's one of the things is it's OBP. The other is auction dynamics. Every auction is a little different. Some people have more money on the table, some have less. So you'll see some aberrant things. Like you'll see like Leo Rabe, from Rotoballer. He had money at the left on the table at the end. So instead of taking like $20 on a scrub, he did it on Pablo Lopez so he can reclaim it in fab money. So if you see Pablo Lopez getting bought, no, he knows he's out for the year. It's just purposeful, so you can get more fab money to reclaim him. But it's just one of those things. Probably shouldn't leave money on the table, but that's at least if you're caught in that situation and it happens to the best of us, this is the way to get around that a little bit there. Couple other things though. So let's start with Aaron Judge because the price is eye-opening there. 62 in AL Tout Wars, 63 by Todd Zola in Mixed League Tout Wars, he had like a 450 OBP last year with a billion at bats, billion plate appearances there. So that's why a player like that goes for so much.
I mean, yeah, it's risky. When I was able to go to New York and participate in the Tout Wars auctions, whether it was the mixed or the NL I did online, I think during COVID, but same thing, auction style. I always went very stars and scrubs. Even in the NL, I always felt like the max bids on the best players in Tout Wars weren't quite high enough, that we were like playing it a little too close, maybe not giving ourselves enough credit for our ability to backfill a roster during the season, even in the NL, especially in the mix, but even in the NL, or our ability to buy $2 players who, you know, I can see $2 guys in the AL and the NL who I think are fine. $1 guys, maybe $3 guys who I think are fine. But in the mixed, especially, I always felt like we could probably go. I would often just buy like $40 guys, which was usually the max, $40 to $45 guys. I'd buy like 3 of them right at the beginning, use a lot of my money. You never ran out of money. You never had that problem of spending money on Pablo Lopez at the end because you were in dollar days before everyone else. But it often worked out really well. So I think that this is a good switch by these draft rooms to pay up. Sure, it's risky. If Aaron Judge gets hurt and misses 50 games, whoever drafted him is not going to probably win your league. But whatever, you got to take some chances, right?
Yeah.
Like to win your league, you got to take some chances. And I think that's a chance. You're not betting on his talent. That's locked in. You're just betting on him to stay healthy.
Well, and the thing is, I think you're absolutely right that the industry leagues, and it's not just Tout Wars. I think labor is true. I think it's true mostly that we don't pay enough for the stars. We don't pay enough for the elite players. Ironically, the prevailing trend in the NFBC auctions, I mean, these are all mixed league auctions, is to spread the risk more. That stars and scrubs is becoming out of favor there. The teams that have been winning lately have been more spread the risk teams. Now, there's still teams that will run stars and scrubs in the NFBC, but if it's been harder to pull off. Maybe it's just that in that format, it's been harder. And it's also an overall contest. I wonder if that lends it to it a little bit more as well. But the last couple of years in AL Tout Wars, Andy Andres has had a stars and scrubs approach that has worked very well. I think he finished second one year, won it last year. Doug Dennis, the two previous prior to last year, had done a very a hitter, heavy emphasis on hitters as his strategy. And it's kind of driven some of the other prices a little bit the other way. So I pulled up the list, pulled up the players here. And I posted the link in the forum there for those of us streaming live. So if you want to check out the grid yourself, you can, or go to ToutWars.com. If you're listening, you can check out all the rosters yourselves, not just for the league I was in, the American League, but also in the mixed auction, the National League, the head-to-head. You can see all the auction results there, and auctions provide funny results. They provide different results. I came in with a pretty defined plan, Fred, more detail than I usually do. And I adhered to it a little bit better than I usually do as well.
Okay. So tell us a little bit about the plan. Like I can see your spending. I can see a couple spent big on a couple Rays. I don't know if that was part of the plan, those specific players. I feel like you spent a fair amount on OBP. Yeah, but maybe not. I guess Junior Caminero is not a big OBP guy, but Yandy Diaz, Steven Kwan, Roman Anthony, definitely, Corey Seager. Like there's some guys who, even Paul Goldschmidt, even at his age, like as a $5 player, like some of that is wrapped up in his OBP. So I felt like on the hitting side, making sure that you had a good OBP was a big part of your plan. Would you say that was accurate?
It is. And globally, I intended to spend about 170 to 175 of my $200 budget. I mean, $260 budget. Excuse me, 200 would be weird. $260 budget on hitting, around 90 or so on pitching. I came pretty close to that. I actually spent like a couple bucks less on pitching, and that's normal because hitting always gets priced up and pitching gets discounted in this league. So ended up allocating a couple bucks more than I had planned on hitting. But three things I wanted to address early: third base, an ace or two, a top three closer, and I wanted to figure out what to do with Judge. If I didn't get Judge, I had I could spread the money around elsewhere. But I budgeted, $30 for a third baseman, ended up spending $33 on Jose Caballero. I wanted to get one of J-Ram, Caballero, or Michael Garcia. I think there's a big drop off after that. I wanted to address that early so I knew what I had the rest of the way, kind of defined it, because I feel like first base, even shortstop, second base, I can find guys at various price points that I liked. Whereas at third base, I didn't find too many that I liked after the top three.
Yeah, that's fair, especially in an AL only league. Like the pool's obviously half the size, so you can identify your options. So if you look and you think, I don't really like the third, who I don't think I really feel good about the cheap third baseman, I'm going to pay for Junior Caminero. And if I can't get Junior Caminero, I'm going to pay for Maikel Garcia. And I'm, and because I've looked around and I've looked at, some of the weaker options at third base in the AL, and I don't really like them. I think that's fair. We don't really run it at quite as much in the mixed leagues, but I'm sure you were maybe in on Jazz Chisholm, or you were going to be in on Jazz Chisholm if you didn't get Caminero. So, so I think that's an easier plan, to work out in an only. I was really interested in your pitching staff. I don't think you said this yet, but did you plan on getting like a top 2 or 3 closer before you went?
Absolutely, I did. There's 3 closers that I wanted to spend on in the AL: Andres Munoz, Cade Smith, or Aroldis Chapman. I have some slight reservations about David Bednar, so I didn't include him in that grouping.
Yeah.
And if I'm already going to spend like 15 to 20 on a closer, I might as well spend 23 on the guy that I feel really confident with. I ended up buying Andres Munoz, and I spent 24 on him. That was also relatively early. And then, I saw Chapman go for 23. I think Cade Smith even went for an extra buck or two above that. Trying to pull that up around here real quick just to figure out what his price was. But point is, it was in my budget to do that. He went for 25. Cade Smith went to Larry Schechter at 25. I might have been the 24. That I think he may have even gone out there before Munoz, and I got Munoz at 24. But I allocated about 25 for him, and I allocated 25 for one starter and 20 for another starter. I was really going to be top heavy. I wanted to not avoid overspending for the middle class, where I just think there's just as much likelihood of failure in that class as in the $10 to $15 classes is there the $5 to $7 class. So I was trying not to go too big on those.
Yeah, I mentioned this in our notes for today, but I can't believe in both the AL and the mixed how cheap Kyle Bradish was. Like, just looking at the AL, he's at 16. And then if I just read out some other prices, Luis Castillo, and then just think about where they're like, these guys should kind of line up with their ADP. I know auctions don't always, but they should kind of. So in prices, so Luis Castillo's 15, $1 left. Kevin Gausman, 19. Cam Schlittler, 19, both $3 more. And like Kyle Bradish gets picked way in front of in ADP, all of those players. So I mentioned to you that I thought Framber Valdez, who often goes like right around, even sometimes often a little later than Kyle Bradish, goes for 20. Cease, same thing. He goes for 19. Pepio for 20, who goes way later than Kyle Bradish. So I thought that one was a steal. I thought Cole Reagans at 22 was fairly priced. I like your pitching staff. I like Michael Wacha in an AL only a lot for $4. Like, he doesn't move the needle in a mixed league because of the low strikeout rate, but this is a guy who will probably give you 25 to 30 starts, an ERA in the high 3s, a respectable whip. Like, it's just, that's the kind of guy at $4 that can help you win an AL only league. I like Ian Seymour as a sleeper this year. If he starts the year in the minors at $3 in an AL only, that's not as big of a deal as it is in a mixed league. And I bet you were, I'm going to guess you were surprised to get Kirby Yates for $7.
Yeah, I was, especially because the news was out there that Robert Stevenson's not going to be ready for the start of the season, and neither is Ben Joyce. Yates is in pole position to win that job for the Angels. Now, it's the Angels. They're going to be really bad. So I get it a little bit there, but I was happy to get him at 7. I don't know if I would have paid 9 if someone goes the 8, because then you're starting to get into it like, oh, okay, well, I have my stud closer. I wanted a cheap second closer. I got one. So would that have been better spent on a $7 starter? Maybe. I don't know. But the thing is, I wouldn't have gone more, and then I would have just figured out something else to do instead.
Worth noting that it's a trading league, and if
Yes.
If Kirby Yates holds that closer's job for 6 weeks, you can probably trade him, not for a king's ransom, but you can, if he holds that closer's job for 6 weeks, you can probably trade him. Or if you're feeling really gutsy, if he holds that closer's job for 6 weeks, you can say, forget it, I'm going to ride him. I'll trade Andres Munoz. and I'm going to get a stud pitcher or a really good hitter or something like, or a mix of both or something for him. So, yeah, there's a lot of, because it's a trading league, there's a lot, you're just looking for value. There's a lot of ways you can play that.
Yeah. I think so. And I ended up getting Yates twice over the weekend in my home league. I did from my hotel room on Sunday night, and I ended up with Yates in a similar sort of price range.
Yeah, I think I'm starting to come around on him. He's starting to emerge for me as like out of the like round 20 or later in a fantasy draft closer options. He's starting to come around to me as like maybe my preferred one. Like I was saying I was talking about the I've been going cheap on closer in some drafts. So like I was mentioning for the main event, like having those backup plans, having ranked him and Clayton Beeter and Riley O'Brien and Taylor Rogers, all these different guys, and figuring out what order you have them. Yates has started to move to the top of the list for you because, like you said, there's been some positive comments about him from the Angels, and there doesn't really seem to be. Jordan Romano is actually probably his biggest competition right now, as far as Romano's done fine this spring, and he has closer experience. And he's actually older than you'd think, but not really old. So I think he's 33, so not near as old as Yates. But anyways, I think Yates gets first shot at the job.
Yeah, I think he does too, and I'm fine with that. You know, it's definitely there's some risk there, and there's a chance that the Angels win 60 games because they're really becoming the Rockies of the American League. Just do some baffling things every year, but yeah, 65 wins is probably still enough to support enough saves.
Pacoda has the Angels with the lowest win total in baseball outside of the Rockies. I'm being a little dramatic when I say that because it's only half a win or 1 win less than the Cardinals, the Nats. It's about 3 wins less than the White Sox, but they do have them second last. They have those. I just named the what's it? 5 teams that they have for less than 70 wins.
I think all those fit. I think the Cardinals have the best chance of exceeding that. But
yeah,
because I think they have some young, like they got Wetherholt, for instance, they have some young pitching that could take a step up.
Agreed. Yeah.
But they also could sell off too and be worse. So, you know,
and they probably will.
Yeah.
Right. Like they could be maybe at a 75 win pace at the trade deadline and then at a 60 win pace after they sell off at the trade deadline for sure.
Yeah. In the outline, you mentioned Samuel Basallo. I haven't talked a whole lot about him, but he's in that range of catchers that I like. I've said before, there's probably about, in mixed leagues, there's 17, 8, 20 catchers that I'm actually pretty good with. I got him for 10 in Tout, and I don't know if you had a chance to look at all the closer prices as a whole. I think closers are just really expensive for the most part there. A lot of my targets went by the wayside. Langoliers went for 23. Rushman, I think, went for 18. I was in on the bidding on a lot of these guys. Ryan Jeffers is good in an OBP league. He went for 14. Cal Raleigh obviously is expensive at 36. Salvador Perez went for 18. Ben Rice went for 23. I should have gone the extra $1 on Dylan Dingler. Instead, I had to settle for Danny Jansen. He stopped at 7. I could have gone 8. I don't know if that would have gotten him. I may have had to go to 10, but that wouldn't have been such a terrible thing to do. So that's one where I'm kind of looking at that like, yeah, that'd be all right. That would have been fine. But catchers were expensive across the board. And a couple like I like Carter Jansen a lot, and he went for 11. That's better than Danny Jansen for 5. But the point is, there is a lot of good catchers, and it's when a player comes up sometimes is when determines it. Basallo and Jansen are always kind of slotted together. You see them usually go within 5 picks of each other in snake drafts. So that they're $1 apart from each other kind of makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. In hindsight, you're right. If you could have turned Danny Jansen into Dingler or Carter Jansen, and then maybe some of your $3 Jason Dominguez, Dominic Canzone, Brian Rocchio, maybe some of those guys you have to sacrifice. Some of them had to become $1 guys. And if you didn't get those guys, you didn't get those guys. Although I bet you like Canzone. I do, as a $3 AL guy. I think that was really
I was
good.
Very happy with Canzone. That's a target for me.
And this is where I say that you can go stars and scrubs a bit in an only, especially I don't love maybe too many $1 guys. I noticed, for example, as you mentioned, Andy Andres has like 10 of them. I like having some $2 and $3 guys. And when I would do the auctions, not that it always worked, but when I do the auctions and I was going to go stars and scrubs, I just spend all my time getting ready for the auction, ranking and valuing my sub $5 guys. And that was basically, because it wasn't hard to rank and value the $45 guys, right?
Yeah,
It's like,
exactly.
there's a handful of them and I'm going to bid on them and we'll see who I get. But I would just spend all the time figuring out who are my Dominic Canzones that I like. Maybe I like him and I like Nathan Lucas, but I don't like Joey Loperfido or whatever. But I'd spend a lot of time just at the bottom of the barrel getting ready for the draft, figuring out those guys.
I spent more on outfielders than I wanted to, including DeLauter as one of my utilities also, and Jason Dominguez and Canzone. I've got a lot of flexibility. Now, Tout Wars is also unique. You can have as few as 4 outfielders in Tout Wars because the way teams manage their respective rosters. Now, how many teams get by with just carrying 4 outfielders of their own? I have like 7 guys that qualify at outfield. And so I have some flexibility. We also, Tout Wars, we have 14 spots you could use on hitters, but you could do as few as 12 and use 11 pitchers too. We have a utility and 2 swingmen and then instead of both corner and middle, we have just an extra infielder, 1 extra infielder. So roster construction is fascinating in this league as well. I'm glad you mentioned Andy. So one of the cool things about Andy and the way he finished his roster, he had a number of $1 players at the end, like 7 guys still left at the very end to close out as the auction was complete. And he wasn't hemming and hawing. He wasn't he had guys at the ready. Bam. Give me Fernando Cruz. Give me Louis Varland. Give me Connolly early. Man, that one broke my heart. I'm a Connolly early guy, and I didn't have him. That should have been on my roster, but I was done at that point in time. So shame on me for that. But point is, he was ready. He spent the time when he because he knew he's going to be in dollar days early. He gets his big players, and then you're like, okay, these are my $1 targets. These are the guys I want to be able to get. And you can deny him some of his guys, but he was at the ready, and it just shows he's a pro. This was his plan all along. And he just kind of went crank through these names. Will it work? I don't know, but I think he's at least, man with a plan. He is the defending champ. Obviously knows what he's doing.
Yeah. Like I said, like if you're going to go stars and scrubs, the stars part's pretty easy. Just figure out your scrubs. And like you said, it sounds like he has a plan. He's got Connolly early and Peyton Tolley. Makes sense. He's just ready to capitalize when Boston needs to call up pitchers, which they will have to at some point. Anyways, he got some ratio guys like Drew Pomerantz. Yeah, he had a plan. Louis Varland is like, I don't think he'll get saves this year, but if he just in an AL only, like it wouldn't be shocking for Jeff Hoffman to lose that closer's job early in the season. He wasn't good last year. He blew the World Series for the team. Like if he gets off to a slow start, and then where will they pivot? Will they pivot to Rogers, who's like really old and more of just a workload ground ball guy, or would they? Louis Varland would be an interesting closer option for the Blue Jays. He strikes batters out. Anyways, he's in mixed league. You can't draft him because there's just not enough space. But in an AL only, there is space. It's good.
Yep, exactly. Any other reflections on AL Tout before we start talking mixed?
No, I think we can pivot over to the mix. Like I said, I like your team. I think you're becoming the Chase DeLauter guy in my mind. So, and I think that's cool. I think DeLauter is interesting. I wrote recently about whether Andrew Painter can be a post-hype sleeper before he even pitches in the majors, because like I feel like the hype on Andrew.
They're in the same vein. Absolutely,
agreed.
Absolutely.
And DeLauter, I know he played in the playoffs, but like it's kind of the same thing where like, and I'm guilty of this too. Like we talk Connor Griffin, we talk JJ Wetherholt, we talk Kevin McGonigle, and it's like, hey, remember Chase DeLauter, because he actually is totally locked into a starting job already and is a prospect in his own right. So, and is on a team where he could easily hit second in the lineup, third in the lineup, fourth in the lineup, like right away. So anyways, I think he gets lost in the shuffle and probably undervalued a little bit as a boomer bust, but not at an expensive part of the draft option.
I'm glad you said that, because I think that is absolutely true as far as that goes, and I'm including where DeLauter I expect to slot eventually. Maybe he doesn't always get in that spot, but sometimes he might bat lower in the lineup. He might bat 8 sometimes too. So that's something to watch for a little bit there. But because I'm just looking lately, and against righties, where is DeLauter, like, where is DeLauter hitting, but it's been more likely second than elsewhere in some places there.
And just look at the names in Cleveland's lineup. If he hits, he will be in the top half of the lineup. Like, that is not a hard lineup to get into the top half if you're hitting well.
Exactly right there. All right, folks. We are on the Blue Wire Network. Before we talk about the the Tout Wars Mix Leagues, here are the Blue Wire ads. Okay, thank you for your patience if you're streaming with us. So you had some top observations about the Mix League as well. And we saw that, again, there's a lot of money spent early on. We talked about Judge. Todd Zola was not someone you'd expect to be a big high-priced guy. That's not Todd's way of drafting usually. He was the $63 Judge guy. Saw 4 other players go $50 or more.
Absolutely. And, you're right. Todd's not the guy you think maybe will do that, but I think it turned out well for him. He still got Christopher Sanchez as his ace. That's top 5 starter. I guess where Todd, backed off a little bit is he didn't spend a lot on closers. He just took Pete Fairbanks for $9. But I think that's fine.
That's the way you do it if you spend on Judge.
Right.
I mean,
you got to work something. So you're like, okay, I've got the hitting with Judge. He didn't have to take a whole bunch of $1 players, or at least that's not the route he chose to take, because he didn't back up Judge with like another $30 player or something like that. So he spread it out after that. I thought the prices for the expensive players were totally fine. Even the pitchers, Tarek Skubal went to Jeff Zimmerman for $42. I remember the days in Clayton Kershaw's prime of him going for about $40. So I think that's totally fine. So yeah, I thought the prices were fair. One thing I mentioned to you that I think is worth talking about is I was really surprised how cheap the second tier, third tier closers were in this one. Like I just mentioned, Pete Fairbanks for $9, and then I'm just trying to locate them on the chart, but I remember looking at them yesterday and I saw a lot of, like, Kenley Jansen was a single digit. Ryan Walker was a single digit. I was surprised about those ones. There were some interesting ways that managers could have built, like, the expensive closers were still really expensive, like in the 20s, but there was an easy way where for about $20 you could get Pete Fairbanks and Kenley Jansen and grab maybe a speculative save source or two, like maybe grab like a Clayton Beeter or something like that. So I thought that was interesting how much, it was still 20 to 25 for the good closers. Right. I thought the cheap ones, Seranthony Dominguez, I'm not on Seranthony Dominguez at all this year, but $6, like that's pretty fair.
But isn't that the reason why they're cheap? But then you have to, so you dig into why were they cheap? And the reason is, Dominguez, for instance, in particular, he's got a 13% walk rate. He probably won't hold the job.
I don't like Dominguez at all this year, but he does have a closer's job, and $6 I felt like was, I don't know, pretty fair.
I don't know. It strikes me a little bit of the food's rotten, but at least the portions are huge. I mean, that it's that sort of mentality. I mean,
could I interest you in Robert Garcia for $6 instead? Would you be more apt?
I mean, that thing is, I'm the guy that logged a $7 Kirby Yates in AL. I mean, it's the same sort of thing. It's worth taking a chance as your second closer. Yes. And the main NFBC main event, I might go get 2 second tier closers because I might get locked out of the top 8. There is a real chance I don't get any of those top 8. Right. They could be gone by pick 43, in which case, and I posited this to Scott on Sunday night, is maybe I'm forced to do the right thing because we know it's not worth, the closers aren't quote unquote worth that cost. It's not, you can't, Andres Munoz probably isn't going to earn $24, but it still might be okay to have to pay that just because you're getting that certainty because no one else is going to get those saves. So, it's, you compete in that there, you get some ratio help with him. Whereas like Dominguez, you're not even getting the ratio help. You're maybe getting strikeouts, but in other cases you're not. So it's one of these intellectual battles you have to deal with the whole time.
Yeah, for sure. I can give you a couple other interesting closer ones. Dennis Santana went for $7, and I think that's a better one than like Dominguez for $6. Maybe Dennis Santana's done really well since he's been on the Pirates. Here's a really fun one though. I know you and Scott have talked, and I totally agree with you guys about how expensive the Brewers relievers have been for an unsettled bullpen. But in an auction, Trevor McGill for $8 Abner Uribe for 6. They went to different teams. If you could have nailed both of those, you have the closer situation on one of the best teams in the league for $14 for 14, and you have a great setup man. So if I know Scott mentioned last night that he believes that McGill will be the Brewers closer at the start of the season, so do I. At which case, whatever, you got an undervalued McGill for 8. You've got a slightly overvalued Uribe for 6, but Uribe is one of the best setup men in baseball. He could still be worth 3 or 4 just as a setup man. And you've got McGill protection. I think that was like that would have been a really good pairing for someone to have. But so, for example, those 2 for 14, Dennis Santana for 7, you just spent 21. You've got 2 safe situations covered and a really nice setup man. I don't know. I think there's some interesting ways in this league that you could attack closers. And then again, I want to mention Kyle Bradish. I can't believe it. He went for $11. I don't get that at all.
Right.
When you see like Spencer Strider 13, Zach Wheeler 13, Emmett Sheehan 12, like these are all, Chase Burns 15, Nolan McLean 17. He gets drafted. Bradish is ahead of all of these pitchers. Drew Rasmussen went for more than Kyle Bradish at 13. Like it's just a weird one. I don't know. Something.
I think it's the health risk. I think people are scared of him, either A, breaking again, or B, being limited. The reason I'm not as worried about Bradish's health is he pitched those 6 innings last year.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, 6 games, not 6 innings, 6 games last year. I don't think he's going to be limited as much. I think they need him to be the top of the rotation starter too. I think that's the other thing there too. So I'm with you. I think Bradish is underpriced.
I mean, the drafters should be just as worried about him getting to his innings as the auctioners.
Right.
So he's just the one that sticks out to me, not in that he's undervalued against his skills. I believe that, but what is just shocking to me is just against his ADP. Yeah. He's just like Jesus Luzardo 18, Kevin Gausman 16, and then Kyle Bradish is 11, but Kyle Bradish goes often ahead of Jesus Luzardo, or at least right around him. And then way ahead of Gausman. So I don't know. When I looked at the auctions, I was like, wait, did Kyle Bradish show up at like the pre-draft tout dinner and like piss all of you guys off? Did he? I don't know. Fred, we got a story to tell you from Friday night about Kyle Bradish.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
But anyways, he was just, I don't know. It was interesting to me. And then I also mentioned to you, I was surprised. You mentioned to me that Kevin McGonigle, you think, went for 21 because the manager who drafted him had extra money and that was his highest ranked guy left. Pretty
sure that was the issue. And now I'm looking up to see who got him.
It was Justin Mason.
It was so Justin went like an hour without rostering anybody. He pulled a Jason Gray on the room. Right. I think he was in the 6th round of nominations before he rostered anybody. He didn't have a hitter for even longer. I think that was kind of a, hey, I've got $21 left, I'm going to spend it, sort of thing. But I think it's just like he was the first to be out of money though too. So or maybe not the first, but actually he wasn't the first, but he was early. He was definitely early there. And you'll notice he doesn't have any $1 hitters. He has all like $5 or more for every hitting spot. It's the opposite of his labor mixed league auction team, where he did the $8 pitching staff. He drafted Ohtani and slotted him as a pitcher. So in labor, you get both the hitter and the pitcher. And tout, we do the metaphysical thing that's impossible and split them into 2 different players. But I think it was just that it was the highest upside player left when he was spending money there. So, by the way, I failed in my mission. I didn't get McGonigle in AL tout. It was a bummer. I saved $10 for him and he went for 13. And I should have just brought that up earlier to ensure that I got him. I did not. So I failed in that mission. But
I've never walked away from an auction feeling like I did everything right. I don't even know if I've ever walked away from a draft feeling like I did everything right, but I've come closer to walking away from a draft feeling like I did everything right in my eyes, everything I wanted to do. I've every flight home from New York that I've had over the years, I've sat on that plane with my little piece of paper being like, I should have nominated this guy sooner. I should have bid like an extra $1 on this guy. I shouldn't have gone there, and that guy could use that money later on someone else. I've never walked away from an auction without about 5 or 6 regrets.
Yeah, exactly. And I also am not the person that says I have failed if I haven't gotten player X. Just you can't be basing your draft, especially snake drafts. You can't be bidding it. And in auctions, you can handle a little. You can gin the system up a little bit. I do have plenty of exposure to McGonigle there, so I'm not going to just wring my hands with it. I'd love to have had him there. I hope to walk away with him with one of my 2 NFBC leagues this weekend. I'm doing the auction on Friday, and then I'm doing the main event on Saturday morning. So between the 2 of them, I hope to get a little bit more there, a little bit more. Before I start talking, let's just go right to it. Actually, Tout Wars, you're in the Champions League. This is a different format. It's a head-to-head format, first of all, which we don't serve as well as an industry, but it's the most commonly played type of format there. Head-to-head, more limited rosters. Also, it's just a different way to play.
Yeah, absolutely. And I do think it's cool that Tout Wars, when I saw they were doing Champions League, I was like, okay, cool. Like, I'm in. That sounds really fun. But then when I saw the format, I was like, oh, it's not my regular format, but it's nobody's regular. It's most of us. It's not our regular formats that work in the industry. But it like you said, it's becoming the industry standard, that head-to-head, but then also categories. It's a nice blend between just head-to-head points where we don't care what style of player you are at all, versus categories where we still do care. It opens up a lot of creativity options. In head-to-head. So it's so it's smaller rosters, 1 catcher, no middle, no corner infield slots, only 3 outfielders, but 2 utility spots. So you could still have 5 outfielders if you really wanted to. 2 starters, 2 relievers that you have to have, and 4 other pitching spots for 8 spots. So 10 and 8, 10 hitters, 8 relievers, daily transactions. I think someone's on waivers if they get dropped for 3 days or something like that. I think I haven't totally memorized it all yet, but I think there's a weekly transaction cap as well at 7. But anyways, daily lineup moves and the ability to pick guys up at any point during the week and stream players. So, and this is what a lot of people are playing, at Yahoo, ESPN, CBS, etc. So I'm excited to try it and been racking my brain trying to think of different draft options. I think we're going to see Thursday night some really funky draft strategies. Like, I'm not sure if this draft is on serious or not, but if it is, I think this will be more interesting than any draft I've been in a long time, because I think like you're going to see people punt categories. Oh, also we're doing 1-0 every week. So you either win the week or you lose the week. We're not doing the format, which I don't mind actually. Like, I kind of like the other format where like you can win the week 10-0. You could win the week 6-4, but whatever. I don't really care. It's not a hill I want to die on. You either win or lose 1-0. So
I think punting categories is absolutely an option.
It might almost be preferable.
Yeah, I think so.
And then you can go in so many directions. You can punt saves and just not draft any closers. You can punt wins and strikeouts and just draft a bunch of closers and then really skilled relievers. You can punt steals. You can punt batting average. Those ones are pretty easy. I don't think you'll see people punt home runs. It's just so closely tied to RBI and runs that I don't think you'll see people punt home runs. But yeah, there's a lot of different ways to do it. And depending on how you want to do it, you can punt. You don't have to pick your punt before the draft starts. Like, you can see how the first couple rounds play out. Depends how you do your rankings and stuff. But if I'm on my computer during this draft, I could just do a couple picks. And then all of a sudden, if I decided to, just change my spreadsheet to make steals worth nothing, or change my spreadsheet to make batting average worth nothing, and then just roll the rest of the draft that way, or change my spreadsheet to make saves worth nothing, and then just roll like that the rest of so you don't have to pick your punt necessarily before you start doing the draft. I mean, I'm really interested to see, there's some creative minds too among the 12 managers. And so I think there'll be some interesting strategies.
Yeah, I think you're right. And I think it's going to be one where, where it's just, you are going to have to be flexible. You start to see someone who is, you're going to see some things become available to you because others are punting. And that's going to be the tricky part too. Like, I guarantee you there's going to be someone that goes like 8 hitters to start. There's going to be that too. And you're going to have to be, so that the hitters will dry up a little bit more.
Oh, I mean, if you were going to punt saves, for example, if you were going to punt, wins and strikeouts, you could easily go 8 hitters or something like that, then draft about 3 closers. And then, you know what I mean? And then and then finish your hitters and then draft a bunch of middle relievers that nobody wants. So yeah, absolutely. And then there'll be some people, and I don't know, maybe I'll be one of them, who just decide, you know what, you guys can do your punts, you can throw categories away. I'm just going to be balanced and try to be competitive in every category. And just because someone starts their draft with 8 hitters doesn't mean that they're not. I've seen this, doesn't mean, even in regular roto leagues, I've seen people start their draft with 8 hitters and they don't necessarily win all the hitting categories. Right. Because some of the hitters don't turn out. And then they've put themselves behind the 8 ball because they're giving you categories every week. And then they're still not necessarily dominating you. So the daily transactions matters. Like, I've really been trying to wrap my head around, there's only 10 hitters. So each hitter matters a little more than when they're 14. But there's only 8 pitchers, but there's kind of more than 8 pitchers because you can stream pitchers easier than you can stream hitters. So you know what I mean? So there's actually arguably more. You'll probably throw more innings than you would in a roto league with weekly transactions.
I haven't had a chance to see all the rules yet. Do you have a limit on number of starts per week or number of transactions? How much can you stream?
Yes, I think there are no innings minimums or maximums. You've got your transactions, so you can use all your transactions on streaming starters if you wanted to.
Okay.
And try to win strikeouts and hope you win wins, and maybe you blow up your ratios in the process. Like, there's another way you could go, is just go cheap with starting pitchers and say, I'm just going to stream like crazy. I'm going to let someone else win ERA and whip. I'll win wins and strikeouts, and I'll have some closers. I'll try to win. You know what I mean? Like, that'll be maybe someone's plan too. And I'll just draft a bunch of late starters. And again, I don't know. I'm interested to see if there'll be hitting punts. I think there'll definitely be some pitching punts in various ways. Be interested to see if there's hitting punts.
Yeah, like I could see someone punting stolen bases or punting average.
Either of those are pretty.
Yeah, runs and RBI you obviously aren't punting because that's connected to everything else too. So you're not going to give up multiple categories. I don't think you can successfully. We'll see.
And I think one thing, I looked at the opening hitters. If you're going to punt a hitting category, you almost need to start. It depends where your draft pick is, but you almost need to start with a pitcher, because all of the best hitters, the top 10 hitters kind of they attack all the categories for the most part. Maybe Judge doesn't totally, like, his steals total's fairly low. But the rest of them, they're the reason they're top 10 hitters usually is because they're over 20 in the homers and over 20 in the steals and have a solid batting average. So it's not till you get to about the second round and you start to see, like, Cal Raleigh, Kyle Schwarber, they don't hit for average, or Pete Alonso and Vladdy, they don't steal bases at all. Like, most of the top guys do some of everything. That's why they're the top guys. So it's almost like you'd be wasting your punt to just take Kyle Schwarber in the first round. You might as well take a pitcher and then take Kyle Schwarber in the second round or something. So again, those strategies will be really interesting. I'm picking near the back end. Shocker.
Of
because that's been kind of said when you got Zinkie. So I can't pick 13th because there's only 12 of us. But I am picking 10th.
Yeah.
So I'll have a little bit of time to kind of see the room play out a little bit before I go in the first round.
Yeah. Well, at least you don't have to get immersed in closer madness again. So there is that. If you'll get reasonable either you'll get reasonable prices on them, or you'll be like, it'll be fine either way.
I think it could be very different. You could see a lot of closers just hanging around if some people are punting saves. It's also a 12 team, so there's more closers to go around, even with the lack of closers, on certain teams. But you may see closers just kind of hanging around, and that's the other part. I think people will be nervous to start some of those runs. Because there's no, I do like doing a draft where there's no playbook. Like, we talk so much about NFBC ADP or main event. Now main event this time of year ADP. We don't have good ADP for what we're about to do Thursday night. You could look at like some other websites and their ADP. I don't think any of it really matters. We don't have ADP for what we're about to do Thursday night. I think that's cool.
I agree. I think that's one of the things I like the most. So yeah, I think it's very cool. All right, that's going to wrap up today's podcast. Again, check out our new initiative, RotoWire Smart Money. Check out Fantrax, our sponsor. Thank everybody for that. When we talk next week, we'll be 2 days away from the start of before opening day. We'll have our Tout Wars Champions roster for Fred. We'll have my NFBC auction and main event rosters as well. Lots to discuss. We're almost there, folks. Can't wait. Thanks for tuning in today. Have a great day.